$50 million over 5 years, that half or more will go to distressed municipalities and women and minority businesses. That process will be rolled out, by the second quarter is our hope. We're actually in the process of doing that right now. That will be our new business lending. So the very short answer to your question is there is no comparison, because the only small business lending that DECD is doing is what you see here on the page right now. That will expand later this year, but it'll still have a heavy focus on distressed municipalities and women and minority owned businesses.
When did you stop doing a small business? I'm sorry. I know I only have two. Never mind. I'll shut up.
I just want Representative Gibson has his hand up. So that's,
okay. I'm sorry.
I apologize. Representative Gibson, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Commissioner, how are you, sir?
Doing good, Representative Gibson. How are you?
Good. I just had a real quick question. Thank you for this information. It's very informative. Do you have any breakdown as to what towns or cities the majority or where these loans were given?
We do have that, yes. I don't have it at my fingertips right now, but we can certainly provide that as the big focus for EDCO in Hartford and New Haven in particular, but let us get you the full suite of localities that are seeing these loans.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. That's it.
Thank you. Representative Walker, do you want to ask another question?
Well, when did we discontinue the small business loans?
So in 2019 is when we said, can you hear me okay? I'm not sure if I'm cutting out.
Yep.
In 2019. Yeah, is when we stopped. Again, it was there was not a binary date on versus off. The loans that were in the pipeline, we finished those out, but we really focused on shifting from the state being a small business lender to utilizing third parties and letting banks, compete with themselves, not the state of Connecticut.
Okay, would you do me a favor and give me the breakdown? You don't have to give it to me now, but the breakdown of the grants versus the loans, and how many were given as grants to people and how many were given as loans? Okay.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Dillon.
Good morning, Commissioner. Just for informational purposes going forward, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for providing us with some information. Obviously, the conversation is going to go forward from today, but given that your agency no longer considers New Haven to be a distressed municipality, it would be of tremendous interest, given the business that we've lost, certainly right near where I live, to the pandemic and high cost of fixed costs. What support your department is prepared to provide if your loans are going to be directed towards distressed municipalities? Thank you.
Commissioner?
We lost him?
I don't know. I think we might have lost him when they switched over from one thing to the other. Just so everybody knows, he has to leave at 10:30, but his deputy commissioner is staying on because they have a rollout of something down in New Haven relative to their Israel tour. So the governor is down in your town, Tony and Pat.
Oh, thank you.
Just thought I'd let you know.
The governor was in my district yesterday, actually, at a Ukrainian church. I understand. Madam Chair, should I repeat my question?
We're back, Rep. Dillon, and apologies, we had a little tech issue, but I heard the question. What are we doing for New Haven? New Haven's not a distressed municipality, and I wanted to.
Well, I don't think it's fair to the committee to take all of our time, but you did stress distressed municipality several times, and since your department will no longer consider New Haven distressed, which will be a surprise to many people I represent, given what we've gone through.
He's got an answer for you, Pat.
So let me answer it, and we can provide the data. So, DECD has used a consistent framework to measure municipalities' distress measurements since as far back as we can recall. And the top 25 of 169 municipalities per this formula and algorithm are considered distressed. What we tried to do here is, why is New Haven not distressed? And I'll talk about that in a second. But the main point I want to underscore here is, even though New Haven has come off the distressed municipality list, they are still eligible for the benefits, the financial benefits associated with being a distressed municipality for the next 5 years. But I want to be very succinct in terms. So the financial benefit is still there. I realize it's still not on the list right now, but it has 5 more years. And if it comes back on, it comes back on. But why is it off? Very specifically, New Haven's population growth in the decade from 2010 to 2020 far exceeded that of the state of Connecticut. And as a result of that, population growth is one of the metrics we use. And the points that it got from population growth, especially compared with the previous decade from 2000 to 2010, where New Haven actually underperformed the state in terms of population growth. That is what made it come off the list. It got a lot less points because of its very, very strong population growth. And that made it 26th on the list as opposed to within the top 25.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, and thank you for your courtesy, Madam Chair. Obviously, this conversation is not over. We've lost businesses, so and certainly on the west side of the city, not perhaps where the administration has been visiting, but thank you very much, and we'll talk about this again. Thanks.
Sure thing, Representative.
Okay, you want to go back up to the questions again?
Yeah, so we covered, we'll provide all the HEDCO and MBRLF data. There was a question around status update for the welcome centers. Are they currently open, and the expenditures? So this is I'm not going to read everything here. We'll provide that. I would just say, how we've thought about the welcome centers since 2019, when the legislature put funds to have them open, is our goal is to have all of them open from May really through October or November, where there is sufficient traffic in the welcome centers to warrant kind of in-person individuals there to answer questions, to make sure that tourists are getting, they're getting what they need from the state in terms of possible opportunities and places to go. There is a significant initiative here, and you see it at the bottom, where we are thinking about a digital upgrade for these welcome centers to make sure that the experience for tourists when they come in is a lot better than seeing just the old poster and maybe a couple workers. So that is a real initiative that Noelle Stevenson, who I know many of you know, is working on with Maribel and the rest of the team. We're getting a sense of cost. You see we have approximate cost right here, but the phasing here is to work with each of the welcome centers and consultants to upgrade the space. And ultimately, we hope to have a much more interactive experience and pleasing experience for tourists when we're having this conversation in the future.
David, it says that you get portable bathrooms. Do none of these welcome centers have bathrooms inside them?
Yeah, so some do. I believe 1 or 2 do not, and there may be any. Certainly, the large ones on Route 95 do. If they don't, and I'm not sure about Westbrook, that may be Westbrook where there's a need for a bathroom or just supplementary restrooms.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's just for the Westbrook one.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Great. All right, so staffing here, and there's a lot of data here. So how much vacancy do we have open? How many retirements are we expected? So, we broke this out in pretty granular detail for the committee. Kathy or Tony, I'm not sure if you want me to summarize, but 24 total, 8 of those are summer workers, so museum guides. The way that, Alexandra, Paul, and I think about this is in terms of FTEs within the organization that are driving it, it's approximately 16. And you can see it's in a lot of different areas. It's not concentrated in one area, but it's across the agency, again, around 16 full-time employees. In terms of retirements, we have 29 employees that are eligible for retirement, and 5 of the 29 have submitted paperwork. So something we're keenly focused on, and we want to make sure that we don't miss a beat here as we need to refill some of these positions given all the stuff that's going on at DECD. In terms of applications, you see job openings, positions filled. We have a couple searches that are happening right now. And you see the average time to hire, if you look empirically over the past year, is roughly 2.5 months. So that's kind of what it's taken us to refill positions, especially non-appointed positions.
Keep going.
Yep.
I don't see any questions.
Yep. I'm trying to get bear with me here. Okay, so that's the hiring stuff. Again, we'll provide all of this to the group. Distressed municipality, we talked through that. Happy to take that offline in more detail with Rep. Dillon and others. New initiatives. So, we could take some time on this, but a lot of time is being spent on the Community's Challenge Grant that Deputy Commissioner Dom here with me is leading. That process is underway, and we anticipate a second process very similar, where this is something we're very optimistic on, and that we've heard very positive feedback from localities on this opportunity for effectively additional funding. Secondly, Innovation Corridor, we talked about that. We'll have more to report out later in the spring or the summer on that as we get these applications here this week. Small Business Express 2.0, I talked about that. That's the 150 million program that's also going to be rolled out this year that we're working on, focused on distressed communities as well as women and minority-owned businesses. Community Investment Fund, which was created last year, as this group knows, 175 million a year in bonding resources. Deputy Commissioner Dom, we're actually hiring a person to administer the fund and work with Speaker Ritter and President of the Senate Looney on this. So that is a real work in progress there, and making sure that we have an application process for that committee, given the significant funding that's there and the decisions that are going to be made. And then lastly, the Social Equity Council. We spent a lot of time last year, and we still spend a lot of time right now working with Ginny Ray, DCP, OPM, and others on the council as the rollout of social equity applicants. There's obviously a lottery underway right now, and legalized cannabis. So that's not the holistic package, but those are the main things where we're spending time, and certainly our new initiatives are there. Minority Business Program, we talked about that. We'll provide that one pager. There were some questions previously about metrics for success. Listen, COVID has been really challenging, as we've heard and we know. So staying current on the loan, making sure even when there are issues with a business that there's consistent communication with HEDCO and advice is being provided on how to navigate some of these waters. And then another metric that HEDCO looks at is making sure that the budgeting process is there and robust. In terms of when HEDCO believes things are going wrong, if there is bad or no communication between a borrower and HEDCO, if they're neglecting to have that dialogue to figure out what is the right payment plan, what can be done differently, again, in a business that's having issues. And then we also use the Connecticut Small Business Development Center, which has been really, really busy. They also provide technical assistance to businesses that HEDCO is asking for. Again, I'm not going to read everything here. We'll provide this, but HEDCO has a real process, and HEDCO's been in this business for a long time to make sure they continue to be engaged with borrowers that need assistance and those that are doing well.
So Commissioner, Senator Hartley has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know the time is short here, and if you can't answer it now, can you please come back to us with it, David? The Community Investment Fund, it's kind of nebulous. There's a lot of money there. I'm interested in what the timeline is, what the specific application process is. What is the goal in terms of actually getting money on the street, and who are the board members?
Yeah, so we can handle a lot of this and follow. Much of that was prescriptive in the statute that was passed last year in terms of who serves on the board, and Deputy Commissioner Dom will serve on behalf of DCD, but process-wise, that's where the work's being done right now, hiring people to administer. What is the application going to look like? What does the board want to see before ultimately they vote on it and refer it to the governor for consideration at the Bond Commission? When this starts, though, Senator Hartley, July 1st, 2022. That's when the funds are available per the legislation that was passed. And our hope and a goal is to get everything lined up so that time frame can be met and applications can be taken at that point in time.
And are there going to be rounds? I mean, I'm imagining that this goes over time. You're going to delineate when these applications,
Yes.
Need to be in and when decisions will be made.
Yes, ultimately, Speaker Ritter and President Looney will make that determination, but there will be a regular cadence, whether it's monthly or quarterly, where applications are considered, and that all is to be worked out. But as I understand it right now, it's not going to be an annual process. There's going to be, not dissimilar from the Bond Commission, there's going to be a regular cadence throughout the year to consider these projects.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I'm going to try not to
Minutes before you leave.
I'm going to try not to disconnect us again. Hold on here. All right. Actually, I think that may be the end of the questions. Kyle, keep me honest, but I think that's the end of the questions that we were asked previously. Obviously, we're happy to take any other questions, but we'll get you that sheet as well as the HEDCO sheet soon after this meeting.
So I see that Representative Walker and Representative Dathan have questions, but I have one question relative to the all of the theaters and performing arts and all of the other grant programs that we give. My understanding is Liz is working on a metrics that would roll out next year relative to this. Would that be? I think is she on?
I was gonna say I'm gonna defer to the boss on this one, Kathy. Liz?
Hi, Senator Austin. Yeah, so actually this morning I received all of the data sheets that Connecticut Humanities has pulled from all of the applications and the pre-grant materials from the $20 million of awards that they have given out to arts and culture organizations, over 632 grants there. We have pulled our 2022 data sheets. So we're looking at a full list of who the ecosystem includes, right? So how many organizations are out there, where they are located, and what their operating expenses and operating income were. And we're first looking at that for 2022. So we have a picture of this moment in time because it's a very different moment in time. And then we're collecting that information, looking back to what we have from 2019. So that would be the last pre-pandemic data that we have. And then we're going to be able to look at a comparison. So the funding that organizations received in 2019 versus the funding that they received in 2022, what the sources of the funding are, what the percentage of their operating expenses was of the funding that they've received. And hopefully we're looking to that data sheet to help inform the entire, anyone who has questions about how this particular, creative ecosystem is being helped right now. And the note that these are all going to be nonprofit organizations. They're going to be arts, humanities, and what we call culture organizations, which doesn't fit easily into one category or the other.
So Liz, when will you have a chance to get us that document?
Well, I just saw that Scott Wan sent over the Connecticut Humanities document. We have to sort of meld it with our documents. I need my big time Excel spreadsheet folks at DCD to help us do that because they're complicated and we don't want to make errors. So, I would hope that we can maybe get this done this week and have something for you to be looking at next week, even if we still come back and want to get more and dig into the data more.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you. Representative Walker, did you have any questions?
I'll let Representative Dathan go first, and then because I want to ask Liz on that same question. You jumped on my question. I like that. Thank you.
Okay, Representative Dathan.
Thank you very much. Just two very quick questions. First question is, if loans are forgivable, why don't we call them grants in the first place? And then I had a second follow-up question.
So the short answer to that, Representative Dathan, is during COVID, we utilized existing legislation that was available that really only enabled us to do loans. It did not give us the ability to do grants. So, we thought it appropriate, given the situation we were in, to utilize some of the funding for what was a forgivable loan. And there were metrics that needed to be met in terms of how the funds were utilized. Otherwise, it wouldn't be forgiven. That was our way of meeting the moment, if you will, with the tools we had available.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Secondly, does DECD, for loans that are not forgivable, do you guys do any sort of analyses to look at repayments and any sort of defaults? And
Yes.
if you could share that with the committee. You don't have to go through that today. I know your time is precious today, so.
Sure. Well, your time is as precious as mine here, Representative. But yes, we have an annual report that we put out every year that details kind of the performance of our programs and the loan portfolios, and we can make sure that you get that as a follow-up.
I think we actually already requested that, and I'm sure it's probably in my email. So I'll have a look. If you haven't sent it, if you could please forward to Sue Keene, I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Senator Austin and Representative Walker, I need to jump to this event right now, but you're in more capable hands with Alexandra and Paul.
Okay, thank you. Representative Walker.
Oh, yes, just to follow up on what Representative Dathan was talking about. You'll give us a copy of the metrics that you use and how you evaluate the defaults that happen, so that we can look at what are the things that we need to do out in the communities to help shore up people in making better decisions about how they do their applications. That's critical. I also had heard that HEDCO did not have that many people on their staff. So I don't know, somebody said to me that HEDCO only had like 3 people there. I just want to make sure that they're staffed up enough to actually provide the counseling that we needed there. So if somebody could just verify what the working staff is for HEDCO, I'd really appreciate it. But going back to Liz, on the humanities applications, someone had told me that there was the application deadline is the end of this week. Is that true, or is that are they wrong in their assumptions?
So it may be just for, depending on which grant line. Okay. So Connecticut Humanities has its regular rolling grant applications. So okay. They may be speaking to something else, but they announced the $16 million of competitive grant funding that they got out to the 632 organizations. That was announced right before Christmas.
Okay, all right, but the applications for the rolling, it's year round. Okay, that's what you're saying.
They do have they do have year-round programs. I do know that.
Okay, thank you. There's an arts program that had some issues, and they were applying to the humanities for it, and I just wanted to make sure they didn't get the wrong date so that they're not.
You can always send them right to me, Representative Walker. That's okay. Fine. I do that a lot of. I do that all day long. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Representative Dillon.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Liz, I guess I'm going to ask you, I'm not sure that you're really the person to ask. The scrutiny that you're applying is just to the nonprofit arts and humanities, is that true?
So by statute, the Office of the Arts can only fund nonprofit organizations.
I'd really be curious going forward, because hundreds of millions of dollars went through the bond commission to companies in another part of the state, largely, that employ high wage earners. Whether or not there was any requirement for, let's say, a large financial institution that receives X amount of money, or a studio that receives
Representative Dillon, so that we all know what you're talking about, can you give us just the names of the companies? I mean, I'm not going to guess at who they are. So if you could just say it out loud what they are, that would be very helpful to us.
I would have to get to the very specific. There was one $100 million loan that went out on the bond commission a couple of years ago. That was a forgivable loan to a bank. And I guess what I'm curious about going forward was whether or not we require anyone who receives state aid in that way to engage in any charitable support. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I just can't guess at who these people are. So I think I
don't think it would be helpful to mention. Thank you.
Well, then, can you get that information to DECD so that they can actually know what they're responding to?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'll do that.
Thank you. And send it to Madam Administrator so that the rest of us know too. Thank you. There's that. Are there any other questions for DECD? On statewide marketing, is it only the $7 million that you have on statewide marketing? Because I know we originally started with $15 million each year. And now it's 7,893,000.
Yeah, Senator Austin, I do not have that answer at my fingertips.
I can help answer if you
Yeah,
want.
Kyle, thank you.
There's a couple pots of money there. There's the 7 million in federal dollars and then 7 million in carry forward dollars. So the total, yes, is 15 in addition to our annual $4.8 million.
Only in year one?
Only in year one, yes.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
No, good.
Okay, well, thanks so much for your time today. I appreciate you letting Paul and me off the hook here. We were happy to stand in for David and happy to answer any follow-ups. And Kyle's been obviously tracking everything that we need to get to you all, and we will do that shortly.
OFA, do we have any other questions that we should be asking relative to DECD before we let them go? Evelyn?
OFA's all set. Almost set. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Taylor, who do we have up next?
At 11, we have the Department of Labor.
So we have 25 minutes, so we'll take a recess for 25 minutes and then we'll come back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Afternoon, everybody. Taylor, do you know if I see some of DOL is already here?
And the commissioner is here as well.
Thank you. Commissioner, we told everybody to come back at 11, so in 3 minutes, we'll sign right on.
Sounds great. Thank you.
So, good morning, Commissioner. It's 11 o'clock. Everybody should be back, hopefully. Do you have a list of, want to go through the questions that we had? If you want to share your screen and put them up there, Taylor can, Commissioner Bartolomeo, use her screen.
I believe she does have the power. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I wasn't realizing that's the way you wanted to do it, so give me just a second and I will get that. Okay. Let me just shut down some other things so I don't distract us. Okay. Okay. I think, are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, can you increase can you zoom it in a little bit?
Yes.
What would you? Wrong way. There you go.
Is that working?
Yep, that's good. Thank you. So
You're welcome.
Yep.
Just know that I can't see you, so because I'm looking
That's
at the
all right.
screen.
It'll be fine. I'll take any questions or anything and I'll get those people out there. So question 1 was on the WIOA fund, if you want to go over that answer.
Yes, absolutely. So, so there was a question as to why it shows a negative 3.415 million in the governor's proposed budget. And the reason for that is because when we need to provide the information to OPM so that they can work on the governor's budget, it's typically in the fall. And it's not until the spring that we actually are given much information from USDOL. So each year there ends up being an estimate that we are provided. And then quite often that estimate is off. Typically the actual funding from USDOL comes in less, sometimes as much as like $3 million less in the last couple of years. This year, we actually just this month were provided information that it's going to be likely coming in even more. So the number that we see here is an attempt year after year after year to reconcile what's provided to OPM as an estimate and then what USDOL actually comes in at. It may be more helpful to show the attachment. Let me bring that up. That we sent.
Again, can you zoom it in a bit?
Yep, I'm going to try to do that. Let me make it as big as I can here.
Madam Chair, excuse me, you said you sent that to us? Because I didn't get that. I didn't get these sheets. I got your testimony, but I didn't get the supplements, and it says the sheets. So you sure?
Yes, Marissa sent those on Friday night. And
Okay.
And then what we resent this morning was question 5's answer that we had been working on.
Okay.
But this was all sent on Friday night.
Okay. Okay.
Marissa is on there here. She can probably rebump it if that's needed.
So anyways, that's fine. We can do that afterwards. I see that in fiscal year 2001, we had 23 million, and now fiscal year 2010 is 30 million. Can you scroll down on that so we can see what that is?
Yeah, so that's the hard part on this screen, making it bigger for you. So the kind of the netting, if you will, kind of comes down here at the bottom line. So this,
you got to move your bar on the bottom over.
I do understand that. I was trying to get it to a point where you could see as much of the top and the bottom as possible. This adjusted difference bottom line, I was trying to show you, but then I can't show you the amounts. So if we fast forward.
Keep it going all the way over to today's date. There you go.
Yep.
Fine.
Okay.
We're
so
at
that's
13 million. And if you could go up a little bit with your bar now. Thank you. Keep going. So we were at the question that we had was in 1920, fiscal year 20, we had 34 million. In fiscal year 19, we had 36 million. So it was 18. Now we're down to 29 million. And then it looks like we're going to go down to 26 million. And so we're curious, how does that impact the different workforce investment boards? How does that play out for them?
Okay, so a couple things on that. Actually, so what you're seeing here is updated as opposed to what we had submitted and you see in the budget. So these are down here. We have so that the net basically. So we are actually going to be going up this year about $4 million, which is not reflected in the governor's budget because that was done in the fall. And we just were given this information about the target in this month. So you will see things continuing to change. And that's why the point of this document and the point of the OPM having reconciliation numbers in here is because it changes over time. And you can see on this line here, these state carry forwards, that there are times throughout history where there has been the adjustments that are made. If you want to see workforce boards. Let me get you a different document. This one. Okay. So I will show you, and I know you're going to ask for it bigger. Hold on one second.
Well, I'm just saving you the pain of having somebody ask me to make it bigger, so.
I understand. Okay. So what we've done is we've put here the different workforce boards and how this ends up being year over year. I've got for you on these tabs. The 20 is not quite as pretty, but it prettied it up in 21 and 22, and we're able to, in this very big document, which is hard to show you, if you look over to the right, is for each one of these boards what their state and federal has been.
Can you send us this document?
This has been sent to you, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So you had a summary when you first were on it. There was a summary of all 5 workforce boards. Can you go to that?
That was, let me find that. That was within the Governor's Workforce Council allocation. Hold on once. It's very hard to do this while I'm on camera here. Let me get you that document. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment while I find that, if that's okay.
Yep.
Okay. Stop sharing. Go back into my email and get that. I just have to be careful that I am not showing any PII.
I don't know what PII stands for.
Oh, that is the personally identifying information that comes with unemployment insurance data. Okay, here we go. All right, let me come back to sharing. Share screen.
Hey.
Okay, so this is.
All I want is the 5 boards.
Yeah, I understand that, and I'm bringing up the document that has that. Here we go.
All right.
This is part of the and Representative Walker would have seen this. This is part of the Governor's Workforce Council where it was spelled out. They take a vote on how the funding is it's all formula funds. So this particular piece, there's very little decision making, I guess, but this is what goes to the Governor's Workforce Council, the state board, for voting, and this is how the budget. Let me make that a little bit bigger.
So with the $4 million that is coming back that you weren't anticipating, that would be put into the formula and dispersed to the 5 workforce investment boards?
That is correct.
Okay, great. And can you go back to the questions then that we had?
Yeah.
Thank you.
There we go. You're welcome.
All right, so we can go on to this question 2.
Okay. 20 budget funding summary. Okay, so this is actually what we've just done.
Okay, so now question 3.
Yeah, so this was to Senator Kushner about the paid family medical leave. Right now, we've received 17 appeals, 10 are pending, 7 were dismissed for various reasons.
Senator Kushner, do you have any questions on that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My question really went to, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact amount, but I think there was concern that there might need to be additional funds for appeals that might need to be heard regarding the paid family leave eligibility. And if that was the case, that's why I asked the question, because I think that's a really small number relative to the number of claims that were advanced to the paid family leave authority. So I wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
So, so the way that works out, Senator Kushner, is that we were able to get paid family medical leave going. We were able to get some bond funding to cover, the startup for which we didn't have any funds. But the way the legislation was written, as we are reimbursed by the authority. And so what we've done, because of there's so much uncertainty in volume, is that we have a quarterly assessment built into that memorandum of understanding so that we can account for if there are changes in volume that would necessitate additional staffing and therefore additional funding. So at this point in time, we do not have a need for any additional funding for the staff for this. But there is that mechanism built in if it were to change and the volume were to grow incrementally.
That's great. And we can talk offline about this, but I think it would be helpful for us to know also, like, sort of, and we need to do it now and here, because it's not about the funding, but just sort of understanding, what appeals are, like being heard and what are the issues that we might need to address going forward. But thank you for that.
Sure.
Question 4, and I think I'm reading this correctly. There were 4,179 claimants that had their waiver of repayment requests approved. So that means 4,179 people do not have to repay them. Is that what that sentence says?
Yes, that they applied for a waiver and it was granted based upon the 8 waiver criteria that we have. And so therefore, that is correct.
Have to repay. Okay, so what's the next one says 15,120. Is that the total, and we take the 4,179 off of that, or is that on top of the 4,000?
So we have to report on what's recovered. And so that is the amount recovered. And the acceptance of the waiver is a subset of that.
So there were 9,000 claimants that are still outstanding relative to repayments that
no, they did pay. So that many claimants have repaid their non-fraud overpayments, and within that subset, because of the way we have to report to the federal government, those that were waived are within that subset.
Okay, so 28. So now, the next question then begs to be asked: how many people are still have not either repaid and they've not been given a waiver? What's the number that's left there?
Well, so it's a ever-changing number, and there's never going to be a finite number in the foreseeable future, because right now we have, out of all the claims, the unique claims, 3.8% of those have had overpayments. So right now there's 24,045 non-fraud overpayments established, but that does not account for all of those that have yet to be established. So
yeah, but so out of that 24,000, let's go with the numbers we have. Out of the 24,000, 15,120 have either been forgiven or paid. Does that leave then 9,000 that are still left, or is that 24,000 above and beyond the 15,000?
The 24,000 is the total group of the non-fraud overpayments. 15,000
Minus
have
that.
been,
So if you minus 15,000 from 24,000, that leaves us about 9,000, right? Give or
that would be
take.
the math, yeah.
Okay. So 9,000 people you're still in discussion with. They may apply for a waiver of repayment and they may or may not get that. And then they may provide repayment. If 9,000 people had to repay, of the unique numbers that you have right now, what is that dollar amount?
So I'm not going to provide you an answer on the spot because I don't want to get that wrong. So what I'd like to do is to be able to come back to you.
Okay.
I have the numbers broken down in a variety of ways, but not exactly the way you're now asking. So I'd like to bring that back if we may.
Yep, that's fine. Senator Kushner.
Thank you. You asked all my questions. Thank you. I do want to make note that we did submit some questions to the Department of Labor from the Labor Committee because we also have a bill pending raised on this. And so, but thank you, Commissioner, for what you've given us thus far. And I'm sure we'll get more information.
So
Well, and the answers are within those questions that we're preparing. And that's why I don't want to say it right now because we have it in so many different iterations. I want to make sure I'm giving the chair the right information.
I'm just letting you know, Senator Kushner, if you guys have money involved in any bills, we better get it early enough to incorporate what we're doing, and we're going to need that within the next week or so. So, because Representative Walker and I will be having to make that analysis. So we're just giving you our real time frame. So if you could just go down a little bit, Commissioner. So stop. We have 103 vacant positions that are federally funded. Is that what that is?
It is, and it necessitates some explaining, if I might.
Yes, it does. You're right. Go ahead.
So the way that vacancies are in our system, and you probably know this, but they are not transferable even within the agency. So for instance, when a position is created and is considered vacant, it's very much tied to a certain unit. So for instance, in the temporaries, so the contact center, for instance, those positions, we had many more early on than we do have now. So it may still list a vacancy that is not going to be filled. The tax department, we had been trying to get about 25 additional accounting career trainees, and we have yet to be able to hire all of them. And so if we're not able to, those won't be filled. So these are not, and some of these actually are already in the process. So for instance, the unemployed workers advocate, there's 6 staff for that unit, and we've got all of the postings. We're about going through them. So those are in process recruitment. So these 150 are all in various stages.
So you're going to give us an update on which positions have been filled? Because you're coming back, so you might as well have that as one of your questions to for us to have. Okay.
Sure.
Keep going.
Retirements. Thus far, we've had 61 people put in their paperwork. As far as, how many more at this point in time, there are more that are eligible. They may or may not elect to retire, and we have yet to be informed beyond the 61.
So the question really was, how many people are eligible to retire? So if you could get that, whether or not they've applied or not is different, but how many people are eligible to retire? So the comptroller's office should be able to get you that information. So if you could bring that back to us, that would be perfect.
We will look at that. I know there's eligible. We'll give you various stages because sometimes eligible means that they may still have to take, you know, a little bit of a hit here or there, and we don't know if they'll do that in this time
don't-
frame.
That hit process. We're not caring about the hit. We just want to know the exact numbers of people that are eligible to retire. Whether they take a hit or not is really on them. We just want to know what the total is that are eligible by time in service to retire. That would be great.
Yeah, let me, I can't see who's on my team here, but Daryl, do you have that number right now? I know it was like 27% of our agency at one point in time.
Right.
Not readily available, Commissioner, sorry.
That's okay, thank you.
That'd be great. How many applications to HR have been filed? And how many? Oh, go ahead.
Yep, so the number of applications during this period of time from July of 21 to February 22 is 6,240 applications. So we've had 139 durational appointments, which are like your retiree callbacks. We have durational appeals referees, some temporary staff, and then the number from the outside hires, 53, so external to the state, and 88 with promotions.
So what we're really trying to figure out here is, do you have jobs open that have applications that have been filed at? Is that what you mean by 6,240 applications were made to positions that DOL has opened?
Yes, that is from DAS. That's during that period of time to positions that we've recruited
We're really
for.
looking for the DAS number. What we're looking for is how many positions have you, DOL, sent over to be filled that have been approved by OPM? And so we just want to know,
That's your second sentence.
Are you getting the DOL?
Right there.
Are you getting the positions that you turned over to be filled in a timely fashion? It's what we're trying to get to.
Yep, so the second sentence there is what we have filled. And then we go on to explain that it's typically taking about 2 months from the time that we begin to the time that we're able to get someone going. And if we're hiring from the outside, if we post it as open to the public, then it typically takes a little bit longer.
Okay.
I just received, Daryl communicated me through text. We have 236 employees eligible to retire.
Thank you. If you could move on to the next question.
That would be it. That's what we had.
I know I have a couple of questions, and I'm sure my colleagues have a couple of questions. So relative to the account that is under the Department of Labor, that is jobs funnels, youth employment, all of those have all of the dollars relative to all of the, it's some 8 million, well, actually in 22, it was $82 million. Has that all gone out? Manufacturing pipeline, New Haven jobs funnels, has all of that money been dispersed?
All of that has been contracted, yes. And Mark Pozzella, I think, might be prepared to give you a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Senator Austin, yes, all those dollars have been executed in contract. We operate on reimbursement contracts. So as far as total expenditures, we expect them to be primarily fully expended by June 30 of 2022.
And who did you contract with for the healthcare apprenticeship initiative?
So that has been, we had some discussions early on, and I don't know, Commissioner, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I can speak to that. Yeah, so actually, Rep. Walker, I think you'll remember that was something in the previous biennium that you and I had spoken about. And I know you had some ideas about what you were wanting to create there. So at this point in time, that has not been contracted out. So sorry about that, Senator Austin. That one has not been. And that is something I would continue, I guess, to look for guidance about.
Okay, so thank you for that. And so we have heard from the jobs funnel program that some of that was held back. Have there been any holdbacks in any of these? And is the jobs funnels project and the New Haven jobs funnels, have those dollars been contracted in totality?
Again, I'll go to Mark for that answer exactly, but they were held back at one point, but OPM released those long ago, and I did reach out and speak with the jobs funnels folks and let them know. And Mark, so has all those contracts been amended and modified with the entire amount?
Yes, they have.
Thank you very much for that. Ago. Senator Kushner.
Thank you. My question goes to the contract with the domestic workers. And I know there's been some confusion, and so I'd like to clear it up. The first point of confusion, I know the implementer called for $200,000 each year. And then there were also ARPA funds, and I believe those were intended to be from general fund. And there were ARPA funds that were also identified at $200,000 each year. And so I think there was some confusion about whether there was going to be a total of $400,000 each year. So that's the first part of that question. You know what I mean?
Your feed is going a little fuzzy. So yes, I know that there had been that confusion. I believe, and Mark can say where it was landed. I believe that the expectation from OPM was that it was the original 200 and not the additional ARPA. Now, when I say that, I also want to just clarify that, you know, the ARPA was very, very prescriptive. And I think there was also some question as to whether or not that would comply with the rules around the ARPA. So I think that it was landed, and Mark, please confirm. I do not think that the ARPA for that has been contracted, but that the original general fund has. Is that correct, Mark?
Correct. So Senator Kushner, we are still working with the 4 organizations to put those contracts together. As you can imagine, this is brand new to them to receive these dollars. So we have had a lot of conversations with them and putting the contracts together and getting the work that needs to be done through the contracts put together. So we're getting very close to finalizing those with the 4 organizations. This year's dollars are coming from the general fund. And the way we understand it is next year for state fiscal year 23, it will be the ARPA dollars that will support the program.
And Senator Kushner, I just want to, I do want to give Mark and his team credit on the fact that they really have been working very hard on this. So what we're finding, and we are also finding this with some of the smaller organizations that have for the first time ever received the ARPA money, is that the organizations don't realize, you know, really how many kinds of legitimate strings are attached to the funding, right? So what there needs to be done to justify it, what it needs to be, how it needs to be accounted for and reported on and monitored. And so what we're finding is that some of this is surprising to them. And Mark and his team have gone around and trying to make accommodations for helping them so that they're ready to receive and that we are complying with all of the rules that are around that.
We actually,
and I really appreciate that. And
we actually think that all state workers work very hard, and that's never a question with any of us. Senator Kushner, you and I need to talk about whether we want that to be a permanent 200,000 each year. And if that's the case, then we don't want it out of ARPA. So we may need to make that adjustment in the budget. So I think you and I should talk when we're on session this week. That would be a helpful conversation to have. Do you have any other questions relative to the domestic work?
Yeah, one last question related to that contract, and I appreciate your answers, Commissioner. And but I think you guys are close, and I appreciate how much you've worked with those organizations. I think you're close to having it finalized, as you said. But I want to be sure that if they've already started the program, in any case, will those dollars be reimbursed retroactively because we're already so far into the year?
So Senator Kushner, to answer your question, yes, we have been working with them, and the contracts for this year will be effective January 1, because it took some time for them, as Commissioner Bartolomeo pointed out, it took some time for them to figure out exactly what they were going to do. So we will be reimbursing them back to January 1.
Thank you for your clarification.
Representative
Thank
Walker.
you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Walker.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Commissioner. Good to see you.
Good morning. You too.
Oh, okay, so I'm looking at your budget, and it says additional funds available in the budget. And one is a carry forward of $30,894 and $159 whatever. Can you tell me where is that allocated into your budget?
What are we using it for? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. So that is primarily to keep the consumer contact center going. So the consumer contact center we don't have the federal funding to support that. So that was stood up with the CRF funds, and that was supported with that through the end of the year. And it requires additional funding if we're to keep that going. So about 2/3, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
About 2/3 is estimated that it would be for that, for the staffing and the maintenance of the system, the licenses that we need and all of that kind of stuff. And then beyond that, the other need is within the appeals. So we have 3 levels of appeals. The higher 2 levels are in a quasi-judicial entity, the Board of Review, Employment Security Board of Review. There's a lower level referee and then a higher level Board of Review. That's where the majority right now of folks that are waiting for something are waiting in that system for appeals. And the backlogs are extremely long, and the timing is way beyond our metrics. So we've been working on bringing in durational legal folks, durational referees that would be able to work with us right now through like June 30th of 23, so that we can really get to the bottom of the appeals backlogs.
Okay, so that's the Consumer Contact Center, which is addressing the overpayment for
No, the Consumer Contact Center is what you could refer to as like an old call center. So that's what we brought on, the whole phone system. Folks call in if they have questions about their unemployment and benefits and claims. And then the what I was speaking about for the appeals is separate from that, a whole separate body. And when someone appeals a decision, it goes first to the adjudicator, which is within my agency. And then if the person decides to go on, the next level is quasi-judicial. So we can't intervene at all with the appeal because they're ruling on us, but yet we do pay for and staff them, and they are our employees. And we do not have enough staff to deal with the 10 years of claims that has now grown to, an extreme volume of appeals as it goes through the process.
Okay, because I don't see that written up anywhere in your budget, and I think I think we would like to get a breakdown and evaluation of what you're using that 30 million for. So the carry forward that you have, and how many people you're employing. I know they're durational, but still, it's the staffing that we need to find out. And when you say durational, they're on contract. These are all on contract.
So it gets so confusing. So the contact center, right? The contact center, those folks are temporary. They're technically like ESII is their designation, employment security, intermittent interviewers. They're temporary staff. They have, I would have to say, the least amount of permanency benefits, if you will. So those folks are brought in and have been with us, some of them almost 2 years. And those are the folks that we are trying to transition into the permanent openings that we're going to have, because they've been working in the contact center with us. And we'd like to bring as many of them as we can permanent into the agency. You guys had allocated 2.37 million. So that's a portion, a very, then there are another designation called a durational employee. That's what we're looking at for the legal folks. They don't have to be lawyers, but they have to have their JD to be able to come in and do the durational appeals work. The timeframes on these folks right now are the same amount of time. We've been granted authority through June 30th of 23, but they're a different category of staff, if you will. None of those are permanent.
Okay, soon that really, we would like to get that information as soon as possible. And understand what exactly we're paying for with the 30 million. Okay, so we get
Absolutely.
that. And then there's a $2.1 million ARPA set aside, but I don't see that in your budget anywhere either. So what is that for?
A 2.1. Chris Levine, are you on here? I'm going to see if my CFO has that.
Yeah, I'm here. Is this in the current budget?
Yep.
It's not in the governor's budget though.
Well, I mean, okay.
Yeah.
But it's in the original amount. It's in the governor's, and so it was under the governor's revised.
Yeah, I see it.
I don't see that, Chris.
It's in the current budget. It's not in the governor's proposed budget.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Representative
It was
Walker.
in the original amount, 2.190, and then under the governor's revised, 2.190.
Yeah.
You want to get back to us on that?
Yeah, we'll get back to you on the.
Because I don't see it on any write-up or anything, Pat, and I don't see anything that says ARPA in any of the write-ups. So it would be helpful if we knew exactly what it was.
We'll dig into that.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't see it in the budget book, so I apologize if I don't have access to that.
We'll take that in the next time you come back. The other thing is you talked to all set, Representative Walker?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So to be very clear, what we want is an outline of the $30 million that you have in carry forward and exactly where it's going to go, to whom and about what. Now, one of the things that you just said was that you have a decade's worth, you said 10 years, I'll shorten it to a decade's worth of claims that have not been heard. Can you by year give us the claims that are still outstanding, not the original unemployment claims, but the appeals and some of the other that in theory you're using this $30 million to.
No, I think I was either unclear or you misunderstood. What I meant was we have in the first year of the pandemic, we received 10 years worth volume of applications. So as we work through process, now you have potentially what would normally receive in 10 years, that volume of appeals. So it's, it's incrementally
by year, but by year. Can you give us an idea of how many appeals there are?
Yeah, there's no by year, but I can tell you what our current backlog is.
What is your backlog?
Get that for you right here. When I say there's no by year, because they're all since the pandemic.
We have nothing that's before the pandemic.
No, I do not believe so. Not since 2 years before. So right now, the referee section, as of the last information that I have, ended the month with over 18,000 pending appeals and a wait of about 147 days. The Board of Review, the next level, is pending 460. That's also includes just very few, but the PFML. and the paid family medical leave appeals. And they have a wait right now about 138 days.
Okay, and can you just double check to make sure that we don't have anything pre-pandemic in the appeals or referee or
Absolutely.
whatever you're talking about? All right, is there any other questions? And you'll send us those documents that we could see in OFA, Evelyn? Or
It's Chris
is
Wetzel.
there-
Yep.
Hey,
Hi,
Chris, is there anything
how you
else
doing?
that we should be looking at in the,
I don't think so, and I'll follow up with the agency afterwards on the questions that have been asked today.
in particular, if you could look at the spreadsheet that Commissioner Bartolomeo was showing us that had the pie charts on it, the colored pie charts, so we can see if that, what we're doing with WIOA.
For WIOA, yep.
Doing with the 5 workforce investment boards to see where they are for dollars.
Absolutely.
That would be helpful. And if they get less dollars, although the commissioner is indicating that they won't get less dollars, but we would need to adjust the governor's budget from that dollar amount then and figure that out too. So if we could do that, that would be perfect.
Yeah, we are aware of that adjustment. We knew it was going to have to be an upward adjustment, and that's certainly something that needs to get done before the final package is finalized.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else have any questions? Seeing none, Commissioner, we'll see you back here. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. So I think everybody that we have 3, it's Taylor, is this it for us on this group?
Correct. Yep. We just we have 3 different subcommittees meeting at 1, but for conservation and development, that's it.
Okay, so on conservation and development, we do need the Department of Labor and DECD to come back on a couple of different questions. So just keep that in mind. And we do have 3 subcommittees meeting at 1 o'clock, everybody. So for your respective subcommittees, and Representative Walker, if you could give me a call so we can figure out which one you and I are doing, that'd be great. Thank you, everybody. Talk to you soon.